Alright, welcome back to WMMA Now with your host Chuck Stevenson. So I said a couple videos ago that I was going to put together one of these, and this is it. My top 10 list of the greatest WMMA fights of all time. Now, before we get into the list itself, I want to talk about, some of the requirements I put in for this. So first up, high stakes. The higher the stakes, the better. If it's a championship fight, automatically that tends to draw out a better fight from the two fighters. Two, competitive. More competitive a fight, the better. You're not going to see any one-sided beatdowns or, first-round submissions or first-round knockouts on this list. Three, a storyline. And I mean like an organic storyline. Like, oh, these two had been facing off, lining up to fight each other for a long time. They finally do it. Or, as soon as the fight was booked, these two were going at each other. Stuff like that. Not like a bunch of the fakeness with the fake trash talking at. I mean like a real good storyline. Like, Fighter A had beaten Fighter B's teammate, so that set it up. Stuff like a real organic storyline tends to make it a fight better. Four, the depth of the fight. Like I said, there's not going to be a first round knockout on this list. Certainly don't think there is. No. And then five, the heart showed on display. A lot of people talk about the X factors in a fight, and I think one of the most important X factors is the heart that a fighter shows. I'd say pretty much every fight on this list, the two fighters left it all in the ring or the cage, what have you. They didn't go out there and put on a crap performance. They went out there and put on the best performance of their careers up to that point. I mean, they went out there and they just, like I said, they left it all out there. Most of these fights, these competitors had nothing to be ashamed of, whether they won or lost. Now, the fights on this list don't necessarily have to have all of these, but they're going to have at least one, and usually it's going to be a mix of several of these. All right, so here it is, my list of the top 10 greatest women's MMA fights of all time. Keep in mind, this is my opinion. You're free to yours. All right, first up, an honorable mention, and this fight just goes so far under the radar that it amazes me how little this fight gets mentioned. Katja Kankanpa versus Stephanie Eggink at Invicta 8, September of 2014. This was for the vacant strawweight title. It was recently vacated by Carla Esparza, who had joined the UFC. And this was such an awesome fight. A lot of back and forth action. Eggink had Kankanpa trapped in a deep triangle, I believe in the fourth round. But Kankanpa came back and got the submission in the fifth. So, very underrated fight here. I mean, hardly anybody talks about this fight, and it is a damn shame. Excuse me. Number 10, Zoila Frosto versus Megumi Fujii at Bellator 39 in October of 2010. This was for the Bellator strawweight tournament final. So, all the stakes were going on into this fight. I mean, each of these fighters had fought once a month for several months leading up to this fight. The first time the strawweight division had ever been really put on display in a major promotion. And you know what? These fighters put it all out there. Went all the way to the judges. And hey, you even got the storyline, an additional storyline, in that it was a very controversial decision. Frosto won by split decision. It was the first loss of Megumi Fujii's career. She came into the fight 22-0 at the time. Number 9, Satoko Shanachie versus Hisae Watanabe. Smack Girl 2002 Japan Cup Grand Final. Another tournament final. This was the third fight that these two ladies had in 3 months. The winner would be, I believe, was crowned the Smack Girl champion. So this had all the stakes going in, had the storyline, and a hell of a first round between these two. I mean, these two put all of it out there. And then Shanachie came out, dove on a heel hook, got it in 34 seconds in the second round. So it's kind of relatively quick finish in the second round, but I included it because of just the competitive nature of the first round. I mean, this was a darn good fight. It's very hard to find, but if you can find it, you got to watch this one. Number 8, Irene Aldana versus Lucia Pudilova, UFC 228, September of 2018. You know, this fight didn't really have the importance. It wasn't a high-stakes fight, okay? It was the first fight of the evening, buried on the early prelims. But this fight, these two went out there, and they left everything that they had in the octagon. And it showed when they won Fight of the Night. Pudilova came out looking to wing haymakers. Aldana was coming out trying to, land her signature combos. Eventually, she just abandoned that, and these two slugged it out over the course of 3 rounds. And they both left bruised, they both left battered, they both left bloodied. This fight was just, it was a well-deserved Fight of the Night winner. And definitely worth a rewatch. Number 7, Tecia Torres versus Rose Namajunas, number 1, at Invicta FC 6, July of 2013. So, very rarely do two fighters who are just starting off their careers create such a buzz around their fight. But this fight had a lot of buzz going into it. I mean, Torres came in 2-0. Namajunas came in 2-0. And, for Namajunas, she just came off a flying armbar highlight reel finish. So both fighters were coming in with a lot of buzz behind them. And this fight could potentially, decide where their careers went after this. They came out. Namajunas went for a flying armbar again. Torres was able to fight it out. But then Namajunas in another scramble got in a deep armbar that Torres was fighting and had to contend with. Then after that, the fight was just back and forth. Went to the judges. Torres won the first one, and then they would not face each other again until they were both in the UFC. Just an amazing fight between two novices to the sport in their first year of professional competition. Number 6, Yoani versus Claudio Gedaliah, number 2, at the Ultimate Fighter 23 finale, July of 2016. So this was a strawweight title fight, and it was a heated rivalry between these two. I mean, these two had already fought once before, like early in the strawweight history of the UFC. It was like, I think, the third strawweight fight in UFC history. So these two already had a history going in. Then they coached the Ultimate Fighter 23, and they were constantly going at each other. Allegedly, they had even fought off camera. Don't know if that's BS or not. But this fight could not have been a more heated rivalry, and it showed. Then they come out. Gedaliah throws a jab, immediately drops Youngjae. And then for the next 2.5 rounds, Youngjae is fighting off takedowns from the challenger. Then she comes back, mounts a comeback, and just starts battering Gedaliah over the next 2.5 rounds. And it went to the judges, and Jacek won the decision. But honestly, these two, I think they still don't like each other to this day. So this fight had a little of everything. The high stakes, the competitiveness, the storyline, the depth, and the heart on display. Number 5, Angela Lee versus Mei Yamaguchi, number 1 at 1 Ascent to Power in May of 2016. This fight was for the inaugural One Championship, quote, atomweight title. And at this point, Angela Lee was coming in. She was young. She was hungry, but she hadn't really proven herself against a savvy veteran. And Mei Yamaguchi was that savvy veteran. And Lee came in with a lot of hype. A lot of people thought this was going to be a fairly easy fight for her. But Yamaguchi said, hold up. Wait a minute. You're not getting this belt that easy. I want that belt too. These two battled it out for 5 rounds. Both were fighting off submissions from each other. Both were duking it out on the feet. Yamaguchi dropped Lee in, I think, the 4th round. This fight just had a little bit of everything. I mean, this was such a good fight. It was an early fight of the year contender too. So that's why it is on this list. Lee won the unanimous decision. They ended up having another rematch that was almost as good as the first one later on. Number 4, Jessica Penne versus Michelle Waterson at Invicta FC 5, April of 2013. The Invicta Atomweight title was on the line. Jessica Penne's first defense. Michelle Waterson only like a couple fights back from pregnancy. And this was an absolute back and forth fight. Penne came out, took the first round easy. Waterson came out, took the second round easy. Penne came out, took the third round again easy. Had a deep, deep armbar on Michelle Waterson. Waterson was fighting it off. Don't know how she managed to do it. Pretty sure she dislocated her arm to do it. But she did it. And they came out in the 4th round. It looked like it was going to be Penne's round again. And then Waterson comes up, throws out an armbar, and Penne taps. It was just so much drama in this fight. Amazing fight, and definitely a great display of why I love atomweights so much. I mean, this fight, you could replay it probably 100 times and it wouldn't get old. It was that good of a fight. Number 3, Ayaka Hamasaki versus Sahi Homme. Number 3 at Rizin 20, December 31st, 2019. The Rizin Super Atomweight title was on display. This was the 3rd time these two fought each other. Hamasaki took the first 2. But Homme came in. She had been undefeated at Atomweight since her return there 2 years prior. Hamasaki had been also undefeated since returning to Atomweight. She had beaten Kana Asakura for the title, the vacant title, a year previously to the day. So there's a lot on the line coming into this fight. And these two fought their hearts out. Hamasaki came out and was lighting Homme up with a jab. They both came out southpaw. I'm not sure that Homme was quite prepared for that. I thought it was going to be Hamasaki. I'd forgotten that she was a southpaw. Hamasaki came up, started lighting Homme up with a jab. Second round, Homme started working her own magic on the feet, but threw a kick, got caught, got taken down by Hamasaki. And then Hamasaki dives into the guard, gets caught in a triangle, spends over half the round fighting off a triangle attempt by Sahi Homme. Third round, Homme starts lighting Hamasaki up on the feet, but makes a mistake of going for a clinch. Hamasaki takes her down, and Homme is fighting Hamasaki off on the ground for a third. It went to the judges, split decision, went to Homme based on Rizin's scoring criteria. Just an all-around classic fight again. Another example of what makes the atomweights such an amazing division. Number 2, Angela Lee versus Seong Jingnan, number 1, at One A New Era in 31st March of 2019. This was Seong's 3rd title defense of the One Championship 125-pound title, and it was Angela Lee moving up to try to capture a 2nd divisional title. This fight, high stakes, you betcha. Competitiveness, oh yeah. It went all the way to the 5th round. Storyline, oh yeah. I mean, a champ going for a 2nd divisional title. Depth, yeah, definitely. Hard on display, oh yeah. 4th round. Lee had such a tight armbar on Seong for so long, and Seong just fought it off, did not give in. The bell sounds. Seong just gets up, walks back to her corner like nothing was going on. Lee gets up and has a look on her face like, what was that? Like, what do I have to do to put her away? They come out in the 5th round. Seong just starts lighting up a visibly tired Lee. Hits her with a big kick to the body that has Lee crumpling over, and just lights her up with some more strikes to the head to cause the referee to come in and finish it at 1:30 of the 5th round for Seong by TKO. These two would fight again later the same year. And it was just as competitive as the first. Now, finally, the number one, in my opinion, greatest women's fight of all time. Drum roll, please. Now, Zhang Weili versus Yana Youngjae, UFC 248, 7th March of 2020. Now, you might be saying, well, this is recency bias, but you know what? This ticks off everything on the list. High stakes, UFC strawweight title, Zhan's first defense. Yana trying to get back the title that she had lost previously. 2, competitive. Oh yeah, this fight was as competitive as it gets. 3, storyline. Again, Zhan's first defense, first Chinese UFC champion. Former champion, trying to get back what she had lost a few fights previously. Depth. Went all the way to the judges, and not just depth as far as deep as the fight goes, as far as the skills on display. These two had a stand-up war. They threw everything they had at each other. And number 5, heart on display. Heart for miles from both of these two fighters. Neither one of them was going to say quit at any time in this fight. It was just simply the highest level striking fight between two fighters shown on display, not just in the strawweight division, probably across all 5, acknowledged women's divisions. This fight just had everything going for it. It was an amazing fight that will not soon be forgotten. So, alleged recency bias be damned. This fight had everything. I mean, just everything going for it. Can't beat it. It's already being talked about as one of the greatest UFC fights of all time. That's how good this fight was. So, nothing more need to be said. It went to a split decision. Zhang got it this time. I think a lot of people will admit that it could have gone either way. Alright, so that was my top 10 list of the greatest women's division MMA fights of all time. That's my opinion. You are welcome to your own. In fact, I'd like to hear your opinion on what the greatest fight was in the comments down below. Let's get a conversation going on this. In the meantime, likes are always appreciated. And hey, what are you waiting for? Subscribe to WMMA now, the best, fastest growing women's mixed martial arts dedicated platform on YouTube. Don't forget to hit that bell for notifications. Be a lot cool if you did. And we'll see you next time.